spend time on promoting these challenges is very humbling. It's a huge honor. It's gratifying. It's so many different things. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but it's all positive, and it seems like it comes from a place. I know it comes from a place with love, and for that, it's just
Absolutely.
overwhelmingly loving.
Well, there's certainly great love for your dad. That is why all those people are in the chat room today. But that love also extends to you and your family. Your cousin Taj was with us last night, and he mentioned that your grandmother was sending us her best wishes for the challenge. So she even knows about it. So we're just happy to do this, and we're going to keep doing this until it gets back on the charts. So know that.
I appreciate that. It really is just truly an honor to feel all that love from you guys, and I think it's a testament. Actually, a lot of people of us were talking. A lot of my friends and family who attended Thriller Nights was talking about how the overall crowd of people was just such a loving and really cool crowd, which is really
Absolutely.
interesting because it all these people chose to come to the party. It's not like we selected people to come to the party,
Sure.
and I think it really speaks to the type of energy that my dad put out there into the world. Because all of us were there to celebrate such an awesome human being, and you really felt it there in that night, and I still feel
Absolutely.
it to this day.
Well, I want to ask you about your first impressions when you first. I want to ask about the song first, and then we're going to talk about the video. But when you first heard about Thriller or heard the song, what were your thoughts? What memories do you have?
The song Thriller is a little different than the video Thriller. The song Thriller, I don't know, I can't necessarily say I have my first time listening to Thriller. I feel like growing up, I was always listening to my dad's music, and it was always kind of like explain like this is daddy's work. And
Hmm.
so I
Sure.
feel like the first time I probably heard Thriller, it was kind of another one of those songs that being however young I was, not fully
Mm.
understanding or comprehending who the king of pop was. And I do have a lot of childhood memories of dancing to Thriller and hearing kind of that funky bass line. But
Sure.
it feels like it's always been a part of my childhood. I don't know if I can think of a conscious time when it wasn't.
Yes. What about the video? What was your reaction when you and your siblings saw the video for the first time?
Oh, terrifying. Terrifying. I don't remember how old I was, but it definitely wasn't older than like 5. And we saw it on the big screen, and it's crazy to see somebody that like personally transform on screen like that is
Sure.
just is crazy. It's crazy. And then he wanted to mess with us and tell us like that was real. Like that actually happens. So he liked to play pranks like that. But as I kind of grew up and as I got older and I was being focused on studying film with my father, we used to watch that basically it's a short film a lot, and he would talk a lot about kind of how him and John Landis, their creative conversations they had on set, and a lot of his experiences that he had, specifically even within the makeup department, because he was such an admirer of American Werewolf in London and the on-screen transformation that happened there. And I think that that was such a big inspiration for kind of this project and everything like that. It was kind of what was possible in film was changing. And I think when you look at a lot of his projects, he was always trying to push that technical boundary that if you're
Absolutely.
not, there's so many boundaries he was pushing, but from a kind of in the industry, quote unquote, perspective, whether it was the stop motion and Speed Demon or the special effects of Moonwalker to even Thriller, he kept pushing those boundaries. And I feel like that's that's a huge part of what made him the icon that he is today.
Absolutely. In fact, I used the term video and I was mistaken. It's actually a short film. And most all his projects were short films. They were bigger than videos and they changed the landscape. And certainly places like MTV were forced to play it because the public demanded it and they wanted to see it. What are your thoughts about that, about how your dad changed that landscape?
I mean, it's so tough to have like thoughts on it. I
Mhm.
wasn't born. I wasn't really aware of all the contextual information that goes into that. But from what I've heard, not only from people in my family, but from people who I don't even know, People that I respect either for personal or professional reasons have all come to me and explained from different perspectives what Thriller has meant. And it's so it's I don't know, it's difficult to comprehend in a way,
Sure.
but at the same time, it's just so impressive because there's not really another comparable that you could have for something like this. You know, like I don't know how many short films or music videos, whatever you want to call it, is in the congressional library,
Yeah.
but none that I can necessarily think of off the top of my head. And so to think that this is a moment in cultural history, in pop culture history, in just our country and global history is such an incredible phenomenon. And I feel like the roots dig deeper and deeper every one of these milestones, if that makes sense. From like
Absolutely.
those flash mobs that happened in the prisons back in like 2000, I don't know when, but the 25th anniversary to
Hmm.
now we have the flash mobs in New York. It's crazy that people are still celebrating and still there's all that love to this day.
Absolutely. I've gone to see, I'm in New York, so I saw the musical, MJ the musical. And the thing that really impressed me, certainly the musical is phenomenal, but the amount of little kids who show up to see that musical dressed like your dad, many of them weren't even here 13 years ago. Um, but he has made such an impression on them that resonates through the certainly the crowd, but the kids find a real connection with your dad. Why do you think that's so?
Um, I feel like I really like watching the videos on Instagram of little kids dancing or singing to my dad's music. I feel like it's his music is timeless. You know, I think
Yeah,
it speaks to so many different people and so many different reasons. But his music was had a general message of like unifying people, positivity and love, caring about one another. And I think that I can't say this for a fact, but knowing the amount of attention to detail that my father had when it came to his music, I think that that was definitely very prevalent in the writing of his music to the formulating and producing of his beats. So I think that even if you were just to listen to the instrumental versions of any of his tracks, it's still going to have that rhythm in there that's going to make you want to move. And
absolutely.
I feel like that, you know, you can't teach that, you can't learn that. That's just something that you have uniquely inside of you. And when people hear that, when little kids hear that, to when adults hear that, it just rings a bell inside of you.
Thriller, which I know you know, that Thriller's going to be 40 years old in about a month, and it certainly is the greatest selling album of all time. Why do you think? And there's so many events that are going to be happening to celebrate that anniversary. Why do you think it's resonated with so many people, especially given that it's the 40th year? I mean, I remember buying the vinyl. I'm telling my age now, but getting that and so excited to have that, and I still have that vinyl of
Wow.
Thriller. Why do you think that's so important for folks to pay attention to the 40th year?
Um, I mean, there's so many reasons as to why I think it is important, but it, it's when Thriller came out, it broke down so many racial barriers for
Exactly.
minorities and African American artists, and that is such a big piece of history. I felt like it brought black artists out of this kind of segregated hip hop R&B to the pop culture and didn't put any one artist in a box. You know, for that, for my father, it was really taking him out of that box and opening it to the masses. And if he could do it, anyone could do it. And
Exactly.
for that reason, it's that moment of inspiration that I think Thriller is such a big celebration to, is to the testament of the obstacles he faced in his personal career and how he overcame them with such grace and such prowess that it's celebrated in such a way today.
And one of the things that your dad refers to his fans as his activist fans, that we would fight with anybody just to protect him and stand up for him. But he had a great love for the fan base. Does that translate to you? Do you get a sense of that also? The way the fans are really coming, especially with the Thriller Challenge, are coming forward for your dad?
100%, 100%. I mean, even when I was being raised with my dad, you know, he always used to say that everything we have is because of them and the love they have for us. So it's it's important to show that love and to share that love back. And I remember my dad, when we used to be in some of the hotels in London, he would send room service and hot chocolate
Hmm.
down to everybody that was outside.
Yeah,
And it's interesting because I was actually telling people at the event, like a lot of these people I've grown up with, and I know a lot of people feel like they've grown up with me, but there's been a lot of fans who have followed my family for years, and so I've always seen their faces in the crowds. And as I become kind of more involved in my father's legacy, I see them more at the events and everything like that. So in a way, they're like my extended family.
exactly. Exactly. Can we talk about Heal LA and how what's the best way for fans to help support what you're doing?
So you can go to our Instagram, I think it's Heal Los Angeles FDN. I think that's our Facebook and our Twitter as well. Our website is heallafdn.com. There's a lot
Okay.
of information there. We have a lot of links for resources. We are a public foundation, so donations go a long way. We try to continue to improve or expand our program offerings. We're always looking to partner with new schools. As our program offerings kind of expand, our volunteer opportunities expand as well. So we've started a volunteer list. If you wanted to think about local volunteer options in LA, we're still kind of building that out.
Okay.
And then also just sharing the message, retweeting or posting about Heal LA, all just awareness is really important.
Are you aware of the feedback you get? Because I know the fans have lots of opinions about different things about your dad, the estate, his legacy. Are you aware? Do you read all this, all that's on social media and take part in some of the conversations?
It's tough because my dad has so many fans and all of them are very
Mm-hmm.
opinionated. So to say that I read all of them, I can't say that. I do try
Yeah.
to read as much as that kind of comes on my radar, when it's tagged to me or stuff like that. I do have some friends within the MJ fan community. John Muto, he
Yes.
always keeps his ear to the ground. So I think I have a pulse on certain items, and I do try as best as I can to be involved in these conversations, but it's my personal goal to be more involved.
What do you want fans to know, or the public, more importantly, to know about your dad and his legacy? What's the most important message there?
That's such a good question. You know what I mean? That is such a good question. Um, he was such a well-rounded individual. I feel like when I personally speak about how much he gave to the communities and his philanthropic efforts, it detracts in a way from his musical prowess. But
Sure.
as an entertainer, hands down, he was part of the greatest generation, I think, of performers that we may ever see. Just because that was at a time when people had never seen anything like this, and unfortunately, for lack of a better term, they're a dying breed. There's not
Mm-hmm.
many of these people that are performing anymore. There's not many of these people that are with us anymore. And my father was at the peak of that group of individuals. So it's so like his music is everlasting, and people will love it to this day, as we were talking about. But and this is something that I know I never got to see, was him performing, him
Yes.
on tour. That was, as it's been explained to me, the pinnacle of his career. When I see from videos, I don't know if there's anything, period, whether it's entertainment or anything else, that compares to a Michael Jackson concert.
Exactly. Exactly. I got to see your dad and his brothers at the Apollo before they signed with Motown. Once again, I'm
Wow.
telling my age. And but I'm happy to tell that story because it is such an integral part of my childhood. To have that experience, I begged my dad to take me to the Apollo because I wanted to go to amateur night, and he took me. And then they introduced the five brothers from Gary, Indiana, and out they came were five brothers who looked like me, had afros like I did, and it made such a profound impact on my life that I went to almost every tour, the Victory Tour, all of the tours. To have that kind of experience, I I say it's like the soundtrack of my life. It's your dad's music, and
That's amazing.
I'll always have that part in my life. But there are a lot of conversations about with you. Prince, is there one message that you would give to the fans because they have been working so hard on this Thriller Challenge, and tonight is the last night? Is there something you want them to know, or just something you can say to them because they're willing to keep going? I mean, we could have this challenge forever, but we they really want to get this song back on the Billboard charts. So, is there any words of encouragement you can share with them?
Just I really appreciate all of you guys being here, everybody's help and work kind of leading up to this. You know, wherever the cards kind of fall on this, wherever we end up on the Billboards chart, it's people like you that keep my father's legacy alive. And as you guys know, my father's always had to fight the system and he couldn't do it without you guys' support. So it just means the world to me to be able to share this support with you guys.
Prince, I really want to thank you for being just taking the time to talk to us today. Is there anything else that you want to say, or before you can hang out with us because we're going to play Thriller? We play it as many times as we can because each time we play it, it it helps it to get on the charts. But I just want to thank you to be part for being part of this tonight and helping us celebrate your dad and this great song Thriller.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely will be hanging out until listen to that awesome song.
Okay, wonderful. All right, guys, let's get back to Thriller. That's the reason we're here. And I just want to thank Prince Jackson for being with us. And he's going to hang out in the chat room a little bit so we can
Thank
hear
you for
Thriller
having
right
me.
now.
Appreciate you.